Welcome to part 2 of our video podcast for our Home Affordable Foreclosure Alternatives program. So let's talk a little bit about the community impact, because one of the main reasons why these programs are in place is because of the impact that foreclosure was having on our communities. So let's talk a little bit about how the Home Affordable Foreclosure Alternatives program will impact communities. Is it going to have a positive impact in communities, or is it going to have the same impact as possibly foreclosures?
Well, from my perception, the vote is still out. Mm-hmm. And for me, the vote is out because we know that when properties are sold for less than what is actually owed, that impacts the community in a dramatic format.
Right.
We also know if there are neighborhoods where properties have been left as a result of a deed in lieu or even a short sale. Well, a short sale, there's going to be someone moving into the house, but a deed in lieu and the property is still sitting there, it's part of the lender's REO property, it could have a negative impact on the community. But if those properties can be moved quickly,
right,
then we see a more positive impact on the community, thus making everybody happy, the neighbors and so on and so forth.
Right.
I also think it depends on the community. And when I say that, I mean there are communities that are planned unit developments inside of an HOA, and the HOA may take some responsibility in terms of upkeep on the maintenance on the outside.
Mm-hmm.
Also, you have to look at if a home is abandoned and then resold for a lesser value, then the real estate taxes are going to be a little bit less. Thus, the school system may be impacted, so other services. So it's a difficult question. I just think that it just kind of depends on a lot of moving parts in terms of if it's good for the community or not.
Right.
Well, I do think that there's at least one thing or two things that we can agree on, and the two things that we can agree on, there's a benefit to the consumer, and it's a benefit to the lender.
Right.
And there's a benefit to the new homeowner after the fact, because now they've gotten a home at a great value, considering where we are in terms of where people are being underwater right now.
Right.
And it also stimulates the real estate industry as well.
Re-stimulates.
Because we've got now a kind of stagnant real estate industry,
right,
and this is going to work well with the realtors, because the realtors are going to benefit in a big way because they're now able to get the full 6%.
Right.
So and that's a plus for them as well.
Right.
And so as this is designed by the government, the president, and the Treasury Department, this is sort of a stimulus, if you will, to kind of revitalize, and maybe that's where you were going with that and asking that question, but kind of, a push in the right direction in terms of what everyone is calling, one of the worst economic downturns in history.
Right, and I think Cora kind of answered it, and you answered it as well, and we don't know what it's going to be yet, but long term we believe that it's going to be a positive for the industry. So let's talk specifically to counselors, and how is this initiative going to impact what counselors do on an everyday basis?
Well, really, John, it should not have a major impact on the counselors, because the bulk of the work for the HAFA program is going to be handled by a realtor. And it's important that we as counselors partner with the real estate industry in order to make this happen. I think that's very critical. Our role, though, as a counselor is to make sure that we've done the necessary paperwork in order to prepare the client for application for the modification. And that's something that we do on a day-to-day basis anyway. So I don't think it's going to increase our caseload by any means or any stretch of the imagination. However, I do believe that it's going to open up some doors for us to be able to partner with the real estate industry.
Right. I think that's a good point, that it's not necessarily going to fundamentally change what counselors do,
Not at
but
all.
this is going to be another tool in their toolbox,
Absolutely.
right? This is going to be
Absolutely.
another opportunity for them to be able to try to save people's homes.
Also, in terms of using those tools in the toolbox, it's going to be important for the counselors to understand the process for HAFA and the fact that it happens only after they've been turned down or have proven not to be able to make it through HAMP with this, so right?
Well, they have to submit the application, so they're there's no requirement that there be a formal decision as to whether or not it's been approved or denied, but they have to at least make the application, and they can decide in midstream, once the application has been submitted, that they are interested in doing the HAFA program. And if that lender is a participating lender, then they can start the process in the paperwork, working with the realtor and doing the necessary documentation in order to start the process going.
So should the counselors have a thorough understanding of net present value and the waterfall effect that the lender's going to go through, or does that not come into play?
I think it's critical that the counselor understand net present value and also the waterfall system. I think that's very important regardless of any of the options that we're looking at, whether it be transition or retention options. They've got to know what the net present value is all about, how it impacts the consumer's property, and also they need to know about the waterfall system and how to work a client through that particular program in order to decide what option would be the best for them, or even if they qualify for the mod.
I think just as a general best practice, it's good for them to
Absolutely.
understand the net present value and the waterfall effect just universally. And so as we wrap up, as we talk about things that are a little more universal, Cora, I know that you have a personal mission on the National Industry Standards in the Florida campaign.
Absolutely. My mission is to get all of the housing counseling agencies listed as an adopter of the National Industry Standard. And we're getting there. We're getting there for the state of Florida. We've made a lot of progress in the first quarter, but there are several agencies who have not gotten their paperwork into in-check. So for that reason, we're encouraging counseling agencies to complete their paperwork, get it into in-check so that we can get you on the list as an adopter of the National Industry Standards.
So let me ask you a question. What are some of the challenges that you're hearing from those agencies in terms of being able to respond to the National Industry Standards and being able to become an endorser or an adopter?
There's not enough hours in the day.
Not enough hours
That's
in the day.
that's been the major problem. Not enough hours in the day. The process is not that difficult. I personally have a person assigned to that particular effort from my office, so she's helping the agencies through the process. All they need to do is to take the time to fill out the paperwork and get it sent in.
So sort of like the census program, takes 10 minutes?
Absolutely.
Not 10 questions, but 10 minutes and
10
you'll be done.
minutes.
Okay.
10 minutes. That's it.
All right. Well, thank you guys very much. This is going to wrap up our video podcast on the home affordable foreclosure alternatives. Please stay tuned for our additional podcasts, and always visit www.onlinehousingtraining.com for our further programs.
Thank you.